6:03 p.m. Brown to join us, and Cindy Van Conen has an excused absence. So at this point, I'd like to appoint a process observer. Anyone?
I'll do it.
Bueller, okay. Beth Williams will be our process observer. And we are going to need a quick agenda adjustment because we have a non-public, and we will go into non-public as soon as we can. But immediately following our non-public, we will go into a non-meeting to meet with legal counsel. So you guys can make that adjustment, and seeing there's no opposition to that. Is there anyone concerned with that or have a problem with that? No. Okay, great. All right. So at this point, I would like to, and then as we all know, we're going to come out of non-public. Well, we might make some more agenda adjustments based on what we see in non-public. And then we will recess the board to go into a public hearing, and we'll have a public hearing, and then following the public hearing, we'll go into our typical board meeting. Is that good with everyone? Okay. Wait, I got it. I need a motion. Oh, you got it. You go. Go ahead.
Okay, move to go into non-public under RSA 91A, :3, Roman numeral 2, Section A, compensation, and/or Section C, reputation.
Second.
Perfect. Moved by Tom, seconded by Beth. All right, and is there any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Is it a roll call vote?
Yep.
Oh, sorry, I need to go by roll call. Go ahead, Kate.
Kate, aye. Beth, aye.
Tom, aye.
Holly, aye. Kristen?
Going to go to non-public.
What? Aye.
Aye. So Liz, aye. Kristen, aye. Great.
I'm
Perfect.
telling her.
Okay. So we are at 6-0, and
So
we
that's
are.
what I'm voting on.
So we are
Liz
now.
arrived at 6:06.
And Liz arrived at 6:06 p.m., and we are now going into non-public at 6:06. So where are we going into non-public?
We're gonna go.
something, we're going to add a deliberative item right after I stop talking, and then we're going to go into the public hearing, and then we're going to come out of public hearing and begin our regular meeting so that we can get the deliberative item that we just addressed in non-public out of the way. Is that okay? Does anyone have an objection to that?
I don't, but I have an additional agenda adjustment.
Oh, yes.
To add another deliberative item.
Can we do that in regular deliberations?
absolutely.
Okay. And that would be
The item is the request
for,
for,
yeah,
The non-public item.
yes.
yeah, okay. All right, so we'll do that. And that'll be our first deliberative item under deliberations. Okay, so at this point, I think I need a motion, Beth. I think you have it.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion on the advice of District Council to deny Ms. Wilder's request for a hearing and direct administration to work with District Council, to draft a written response.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Liz. Is there any discussion on this point? Okay, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Nope. 6-0. Motion passes. Okay, at this point, I'm going to, I need my outline so I can say this all right. Thank you, I have it, thanks. Oh wait, I don't have that one. Can I have that one back? Thank you. Okay, I need a motion to recess until the conclusion of the public hearing.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate. Great. I don't think we discussed this. All in favor? 6-0. So we are now in recess at 7:07 p.m. And at this point, I would like to open our public hearing on petition warrant article, on the petition warrant article. The petition warrant article reads, shall we adopt the provisions of RSA 40:13, known as SB2, to allow official ballot voting on all issues before the Hollis Brookline Cooperative School District on the second Tuesday of March. I will, in a moment, I will open the floor for public comment, but I would like to remind those of you who are going to, if you would like to speak on this, that we have a few basic rules for public input. One, we need you to state your name and address. Two, we'd like to keep your comments to 3 minutes. We would also like you to be respectful of our time, in commenting. And finally, this public comment is only on SB2 petition warrant article. Just for your information, the school board is not putting forth this warrant article. It is a petition warrant article put forth by petitioners. Therefore, we do not have any presentation on it or any conversation about it. And also, since we had a public hearing on this on February 2nd, we've already taken a vote on whether or not we recommend this. So at this point,
Can you share how you voted?
Oh, sure. We voted, I don't remember the 6, was it 6-0 because one person was missing? We voted 6-0 to recommend, against recommending it. So we voted to not recommend it.
Voted against it.
We voted against it.
We voted not to recommend with a vote of 0-6-0.
Okay.
Because it was,
Okay, thank you for stating it the correct way. Yes. We voted against this, basically. Okay. So, at this point, I'm going to open floor for public comment at 7:09 p.m. Okay. Seeing no public comment, I am going to close the floor for public comment at 7:09.30 p.m. Thank you very much. Okay, next up. I lost my agenda. I think this is you, Gina, nominations, resignations, and correspondence.
Okay, so I have a nomination. The superintendent would like to nominate Yolanda Flamino as the assistant principal at Hollis Brookline High School at a salary of $98,000.
For next year.
For effective July 1, 2022.
Okay. So, I need a motion.
So
To,
moved.
I need a motion to approve the nomination of Yolanda Flamino for the position of assistant principal at the Hollis Brookline High School, beginning in
July 1,
July 1, 2022, at a salary of, is it even?
$98,000.
$98,000.
So moved.
Moved by Beth, seconded by Tom. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? We've got a 6-0 vote on that. Congratulations to Ms. Flamino.
And sorry, Patrick.
So sorry to Principal West.
Okay, I have another correspondence.
Congratulations, Tim.
Dear Superintendent Corey, I'm expecting my first child and will be taking maternity leave in April. My anticipated due date is April 23rd, 2022, and my anticipated return date is June 27th, 2022. Thank you, Heather Hamilton.
Great, and we don't do anything with that, right?
information.
But thank you for the information, and congratulations to Ms. Hamilton.
Just out of curiosity, when's the last day of school?
We don't have that determined yet.
Is it potentially after the 27th?
Yes. No, it's before that. All right. I have another piece of correspondence. Dear Superintendent Corey, please accept this letter as my resignation from the position Assistant Principal of Student Services at Hollis Brookline High School, effective June 30th, 2022. Sincerely, Kimberly Meyer.
Okay, so I'm going to need a motion to accept the resignation of Kimberly Meyer as the Assistant Principal at Hollis Brookline High School, effective June 30th, 2022.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Beth, seconded by Tom. All those in favor? Okay, so that's 6-0. So that passes as well. Are we done with correspondence?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Could be wrong.
Yes, sir.
It wasn't June 30th.
Okay. Okay, so at this point, we will have public input on our agenda.
Do we have approval of minutes?
What?
Approval.
Oh, sorry, approval of minutes. Okay, we have some of those? Okay, great. Thank you. So I'm going to need a motion to approve, to accept as amended the minutes from January 19th, 2022. I will read the amendments and then we can make the motion. Page 5, line 5, boards should be singular. Page 6, line 46, replace started with starting. Page 8, line 36, replace see with seen. Page 12, line 9, replace and with an. Page 12, line 24, replace entirely with entirety. Is there anyone to make that motion?
So moved with additional amendments.
Okay, Tom, go ahead.
Page 17, line 7, replace 402 with 420. It was a vote, and it was recorded as abstentions rather than.
Okay,
And page 19, line 25, replace out, O-U-T, with our, O-U-R.
okay. I need a second on that motion.
Second.
Was that Kate? Okay. Any more discussion on that?
Was anyone absent from that meeting?
I was.
Oh,
abstaining.
Beth was absent, so,
But
you
there
were,
were 6 votes.
it's,
Okay.
yeah. So all those in favor? 5 and abstentions? So we're 501 on that one. Okay, and then we have the non-public minutes, which have no amendments. So I need a motion by member to accept the non-public minutes of January 19, 2022 as amended. I mean, as presented, sorry.
So moved.
Moved by Tom,
Second.
second by Kate. And Beth is going to abstain, she wasn't here. All those in favor? Opposed, abstained. So it's 501 is the abstentions. Okay, thank you. Now, public input. So at this point, I will be opening the floor for public input on the remaining portion of our agenda. Again, we have 15 minutes set aside for public input. We will allow 3 minutes per person, consistent with RSA 91-A:3 and policy BEDB and the laws pertaining to student and family privacy rights. The board will not place any matter on the public agenda that's properly to be discussed in non-public session. The board reserves the right to limit public discussion at board meetings to the agendas only. All speakers are to conduct themselves in a civil manner. Persons appearing before the board are reminded that members of the board are without an authority to act independently as individuals in official manners. So I will now open the floor at 7:15 p.m. And I would like you to say your name and address, and remember you have 3 minutes.
Okay. My name is Jama Wilder, and I live at 48 Pierce Lane in Hollis. I am here today to discuss a few things about last month's meeting that really concerned me. I went home and I listened, and I saw the presentation on what's going on with the schools, that we're a quarter or a third behind proficiency. And when Miss Gina was asked the reason for it, her response, I believe, to you was it had to do with DNA. So I found that very disturbing. I don't know how many people are listening to these meetings all the way through, but I wanted to give you an idea of what kind of work I was doing when I was at this high school. I, as a sophomore, had to read the books A Separate Piece, Catcher of the Rye, and I lost the cover to it, and Lord of the Rings. And I had to write a 10-page paper going through the themes of all of them, and I was not allowed to use a to be verb. So you can imagine how difficult that would have been for a student that age. My son is a junior in high school. He's halfway through his junior year. I pulled them out of the school system, and I'm going.
So this is not on our agenda.
I
We're
want-
not talking about English curriculum or
I
curriculum.
only have 3 minutes to speak to this board. I have emailed. I have gone through every avenue.
Okay,
I have
so go
requested
quickly then,
a
quickly.
public hearing. My point to you is that you're blaming DNA on why these kids are not performing, and it's because of what's being taught them. He has not done an essay. He's a junior. I saw his assignments. His English teacher is giving him a paragraph a week to write. They're reading the books in the classrooms. It's the job of the education system to educate these children, and you are spending so much time focused on their social and emotional training and their mental well-being that they're not being educated. They are 2 years behind. And I know you're getting federal funds, and a lot of them. And right now, we're on budget, $240,000 over. But the positions that you're adding you're not going to always have that funding. And I think parents should know what is going on in these schools, because either you know what's going on and you're okay with it, or you have no idea. I have asked to give you this information, and if I am denied, because that's what you were talking about in your private meeting, then I'm going to file a complaint with the Human Rights Commission and the lawyers at the state. That is my only option. I am testifying at the state level.
Time is up. Thank you, Ms. Wilder.
This is ridiculous that it should be this hard. It's very disappointing.
Your time is up. Is
I
there
wasted
any
my
other
time
public
for an
input?
hour waiting for you.
Is there any other public input? It's 3 minutes, public input. That's what it is. That's what it is. Thank you. At this point, is there anyone else wanting to take public input? Okay, at this point, I'm going to close public input at 7:19. Okay, so, Tim, that would be you now, sir.
All right. Do you want me to go through my full report, or do you want me to do NEASC first?
I think maybe your report first,
Okay.
and then, are there lots of positive things in your report?
I'll hit them all, every one of them.
Thank you.
All right, so course registration has begun. We're not through it quite yet. It will wrap up on the 21st. We had counselors down here at the middle school. We had meetings with all students grades 9 through 11. We hosted both parents of 8th grade students and grades 9 through 11 via Zoom for informational presentation on the course registration process. So we are in the exciting process of building next year's schedule for the beginning stages of that. And that will wrap up in the coming weeks prior to vacation. And when we hit March, when we return, we'll get going on building the master's schedule. All-State Jazz Band. Hollis Brookline sent 3 instrumentalists to the New Hampshire Music Educators All-State Jazz Fest. That was over at Pinkerton. Was impacted a little bit by the weather, but we did have 3 students place at the competition. Claudia Pack placed 4th on the alto sax and 3rd in the tenor sax. We had Sonia Colford place 7th on the trumpet, and we had Miles Montgomery take the top spot in the state as this year's best drummer in New Hampshire. All 3 had solos in their performances and represented HP very well. We had the Daughters of the American Revolution Good Citizen Award ceremony, just over a week ago. Congratulations to Constance Mulligan for winning this year's Daughter of the American Revolution. Some of Constance's work in winning this award could be seen down here at the middle school. I think today they had middle school, one of their first practices for the HBMS unified team. Constance was instrumental in getting that up and running. And just to name one of the examples that Constance was awarded the Good Citizen Award. There is a ceremony and a luncheon and a tour of the State House in March that Constance and her family have been invited to. And I have my NEAS report. I'm gonna skip over the NEAS report until the end. I'll do Brian's athletic report and then I'll do my NEAS. If that works.
Or we could do Brian and Patrick and then
Brian,
Nias.
Patrick, then NEAS. That makes sense. Okay.
So are you done with your principal's report?
Yes, ma'am.
So I just want to say, the board congratulates all of those students. I can't speak for the board, so I'm the chair of the board, but I would bet everybody would congratulations to Claudia, Miles, and Sonia, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And then also Constance for her work with the Daughters of the American Revolution Good Citizen Award. So congratulate them, and please extend our congratulations to them.
Will do. And any
Then,
questions or?
any other questions? Sorry, I took the thunder there. Maybe somebody else wanted to do those
I gave
congratulations.
a thumbs up. for
Thumbs
it,
up,
yep.
all right, awesome. How about we move on to athletic report?
Sure. So up at the high school, the girls' basketball team entered the D2 tournament. They won their first round matchup, and then they did, since this writing, they played up in Bow this past Saturday. Their season did come into an end on Saturday, but they did have a strong showing, strong regular season, finishing as the 6th seed and losing in the quarterfinals. The gymnastics and swim teams both competed this past weekend as well. We had a state champ. We will be raising a banner, and the girls swim team
I
won
saw
the
that. That's
state
great.
championship. So that's really exciting. And then the boys and girls alpine ski teams weathered the cold up at Cranmore on Monday and Tuesday. So while we didn't crown any state champs, we did have an individual advance to the META champs. Sophomore Annette Schlunk placed 10th. And she'll be competing at the META champs, and I don't have that date, but in the coming weeks. Bowling and wrestling teams will compete in postseason this coming Saturday. The wrestling team is competing in the Division II championships up in Goffstown. Ice hockey season is still in the regular season, and the winter cheer team as well. They still have a few weeks left in their regular season play. And the unified basketball team wrapped up a great season with a win over Alvern on Senior Recognition Day, highlighted by some three-pointers by Dante, which was really cool. Booster update.
Do you want to do HBMS athletics update? Did you skip that, or Patrick's going to do that?
Patrick was going to take that one.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'll just be quiet.
It's a change.
I'm a little
Yeah,
rattled.
no, I thought it would be good for him to read about his kiddos. Yep. So athletic department's excited to announce the HBMS will now be incorporated into the Booster Club and have access to fundraising opportunities and club support for various activities at the middle school. Special thanks is owed to Principal West and Mrs. Bushman for their efforts in making this happen.
Can I just interrupt? The Booster Club is still voting on that, so it's still in process. But
Okay.
there's a possibility that that's going to happen. So just I think Brian might have jumped the gun a little. We
Got it.
didn't have a chance to vote on it yet.
All right.
So-
Let's see, we'd also like to thank the Boost Club who recently approved and will be purchasing 2 large sideline tents to be used on the turf field to shelter teams from the elements when necessary. And Brian also included a little blurb here about the Student Athletic Leadership Club, which has continued to meet this winter. We've had some really productive meetings with our student leaders, and the idea they're charged with, right now we're formulating kind of captain's workshops for our spring team. So pretty empowering opportunity for some of our student leaders. And I'll turn it over to Patrick. Any other questions on Brian's report?
I just want to congratulate all the winter teams. And I do want to point out that as a ski team parent, I had to climb that mountain to watch that race, and I bet you not anybody else who's a fan of anything had to climb mountains to watch
Super
races.
fan.
So there you go.
That's true. That's
It's
very
true, yeah. So, go ahead, Patrick.
So we are excited for next week, which is Spirit Week, week before February vacation. We did have students kind of come up with the dress-up theme days for next week, which has been released. Twin Day and Dress Like a Teacher Day and some other fun days for next week. We have other activities going on during Rock, and the exciting end of the week will be the student versus staff basketball game on Thursday, and then our first ever HBMS Unified basketball game on Friday, which we had our first practice today, as Tim mentioned, and it's just something that we're really excited to be bringing to the middle school, and hopefully to continue possibly in the spring with unified track and field, and then to keep this going for years to come. A big congratulations to Genevieve Scales for winning the Daughters of the American Revolution essay contest. She was recognized at February's meeting, and her essay is going to be forwarded to the state DAR for further judging. She did an amazing job reading her essay in front of a group of adults, and just really did a nice job with the essay as well. Spelling Bee, we actually hosted the Spelling Bee back in January. Big congratulations to Neil, I always screw up his last name, Talim Raju, 7th grader. Neil made it to the next round, which there was actually a virtual component this year. Students had to take online. Neil did very well, got 25 out of 35 words correct, but unfortunately didn't make it to the next round. But we're very proud of him, and looking forward to how he's going to improve for next year as well. Also a congratulations to Viraj Patel, another 7th grade student who was our runner-up, and all students who were involved in the Spelling Bee this year. One of our robotics teams, we actually were able to put together 2 robotics teams, but one of them, the Royal Knights team, moved on to the States this past weekend at SNHU. The team actually came in second on 2 awards, and this past weekend they ended up finishing 18th out of 28 teams that were there. The coaches are very proud, given that they had a pretty late start to the season because we weren't able to find an advisor, but thanks to a high school student and the high school student's parent, they were able to put together a team and have a pretty successful season overall. We are currently looking to fill some long-term sub positions. The 8th grade English position is coming to an end soon, so we can certainly still use some help for subs, but we are looking for a long-term sub for our French teacher, and still 2 special ed paraprofessional positions as well, and just some important upcoming dates. And I think that's it for my report. Do you guys have any questions before I do the middle school athletic report?
Just congratulations to those students, Neil and
Viraj.
Viraj, and Genevieve. So congratulations to all 3 of them. I think I've got all of the ones that you named.
Yep. I will read the athletics report.
Yeah, just your athletic.
Yep. So all teams had a great season. Our boys and girls basketball teams both made playoff appearances. They were hosting the first round. Unfortunately, both teams got upset by some strong teams that came in. They were both close games, but unfortunately they were outplayed for those games. Both teams finished with a regular season of 7-7. The wrestling team had a great season as well, bringing home the Troward County Division II runner-up title. 23 wrestlers competed this year, bringing one of the largest middle school rosters in the last 3 years. Looking forward to the beginning of our unified basketball program with practices starting this week and our game before February vacation next week.
Well, congratulations to all the athletes at the middle school. Looks like it's growing and going and doing good things. Are there any questions for Patrick at this point on his report or on the middle school sports report? Okay, so now we're moving on to NASC stuff.
All right, so within my board packet, I included the narrative response to the recommendations from the 5-year progress report. The special progress report will be reviewed by the NEAS Commission at its upcoming March meeting, and I've been told that we can expect to receive a notification letter in response to that in the weeks following the review. So still a little bit of ways out before we hear back. I organized it in a narrative format because the way you submit in the portal, it's a little redundant. So this is all the information that was submitted, but I provided it in this fashion. Is a little bit easier to read. So the first section there, core values in 21st century learning expectations, I'll read the recommendation and then I'll highlight some of what was in the response. So the recommendation is to create a process and timeline that engages all stakeholders, including students, parents, board members, and all staff, in the process of regularly reviewing, revising, and implementing the core values, beliefs, and 21st century learning expectations. So as we all know, our core values of integrity, intellectual curiosity, innovation, individuality, and involvement in the HP community are what drives our instructional practices. My predecessor, Mr. Barnes, instituted the Instructional Practices Steering Committee and subsequent subcommittees, all made up of students, staff, administrators, school board members, and parents to look into and identify areas for closer investigation to ensure we are abiding by our core values across the school. As we all know, the 3 subcommittees were the top 10, the grade weighting and the grading and assessment subcommittees. Our process has proven to be successful. Policy changes have been made at the board level and implemented for this year's class of 2022. We have made substantive changes to our midterm and final exam protocols, instituted instructional support based on our core values, and altered our practices with regard to class rank and honors designations in order to give students standards of performance that allow them to challenge themselves without having to compete against each other to show rigor in personal academic goal setting. So the institution of the instructional practices committees and subsequent progress that has been made with those committees, we felt completed this recommendation. Moving on to part 2 of the core values in 21st century learning expectations. The second portion there, I just want to highlight one element. The last section there, our core values are driving this instructional practices work, demonstrating the key role that these are playing in the HBHS culture. Transferable skills are the focus of our weekly PLC work, as well as our cycles of curriculum review. World language curriculum is an example of shifting our focus to best practices with regards to transferable skills beyond the work of HBHS. The cross-disciplinary section, the recommendation for that section that you've seen the response: ensure depth of understanding, application of knowledge, opportunities, and cross-disciplinary learning for all students in all classes. We have instituted quarterly cross-departmental PLCs to discuss student achievement on a cross-disciplinary level that shifts our focus more directly to students in an overarching view from the weekly content-focused PLC groups. That work has been done in the quarterly early release days this year that the board approved earlier, and it's been instrumental in some of this cross-departmental work. Additionally, we have had several events that reach beyond class-based activities to showcase a school-wide, broad-based approach to applied and connected learning. The Performing Arts Days, Physics Day, and a recent hosting of the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard Careers Fair have emphasized the view that connects isolated disciplines to a wider view of applied skills and knowledge. The last section there, titled Advisory, NEASC uses a little different language, meaning the same thing. Provide an update on how the formal program or process to ensure each student has an adult in the school beyond the school counselor who knows him or her well and assists the student in achieving the school's 21st century learning expectations. So our update on that particular topic, we've adopted a tool that will help to add time, this time into the schedule without disrupting the current needs. We've been, since this report, the adaptive scheduler tool has been utilized to set aside a few cab block times. In addition to the adaptive scheduler, we've also set aside time for what we call home-based cab blocks, which is an advisory-like group. We've utilized the structure to implement these home-based cab blocks that serve as an advisory capacity as needed, not a regular part of the day, but as needed. We've implemented these. We've also assembled an instructional practices subcommittee focused solely on advisory in order to maximize the potential student impact of this time by identifying clear objectives for the advisory time. This is an exciting organizational decision that answers a deeply felt need that has only increased over the past several years of COVID-influenced school experiences for our HP students. We actually just met yesterday. Our advisory subcommittee, Kate and Tom both serve on that. And we are very excited about the work that's being done right now and exploring this as a possibility. And I'm open to any questions.
So this is basically your response to the recommendations. They have these recommendations, and this is the response that
Yeah,
you're giving them.
and the recommendations are based on areas that at the time of the 5-year report were noted as not yet completed. So they make recommendations from the not yet completed, and then we respond
And
to that.
what was the date of that 5-year report? Like, was it 5 years ago exactly, or, sorry,
No, it was not 5 years ago from now. It was 5 years from the
The
visit.
NEASC visit.
visit? Okay.
Yeah, so
So we're like
it
in
was,
year 8?
what'd you say?
We're like in year 8 at this point?
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
and then will they be back in
At year 10.
year 10? So they come back in 2 years?
Yeah, this was, so the 5-year response, we got an extension on. So normally, we'd have a little bit longer time between this response and their next visit, but it's closer because
Due to COVID, they
COVID
extended the time.
extended,
So
yeah.
normally we'd be seeing this at the 5-year mark,
The
about.
6-year mark.
6-year mark,
Yep.
okay. Okay, all right, I know people have questions. I just wanted to kind of like clarify for me where we are in the process. Okay, go ahead. Tom?
Do you want
No?
to? Tim, I understand the need to provide this report and to present information in a context that's relevant to the questions, but I'm a little concerned with the representation of CAV block as advisory and the advisory committee addressing that CAV block time. I'm not so concerned about the NEASC, but just operationally within this group, we've, in the committee, pretty much separated CAV block from advisory, and we're not really talking, as far as I can tell, about modifying CAV block as it currently exists to be the advisory, as opposed to instituting a complementary or standalone advisory. Is that a correct impression?
It is a correct impression. I think right now, as a current status report, what we are able to do within our structure is the home-based CAV block. So that's not something that I would say fully.
But we're not really addressing
Can-
that
can
in
you-
the subcommittee, correct?
Can you explain what the home-based
Home-based?
CAV block is?
Yeah, so
'Cause
it's
I don't think everyone's aware of
It's an
that.
assigned CAV block So it's not student choice. You are going to the same consistent teacher with the same consistent group. And we've pulled home-based Cav blocks a handful of times this year for a few different needs.
Right, so the school
at need.
basically sends a message to the kids, like,
Yep.
you need to go to your home-based
You're going to
Cav
home-based
block
Cav
on
block.
Tuesday, February 22nd. Like, we're gonna have a home-based Cav block.
Almost like
So
a
it's,
rally point.
so it's like it's a requirement of the kid to show up. So I think for the public who might not be aware, in general, the kids have choices with the adaptive scheduler about where they want to go during Cav block time. But there are some required home-based Cav blocks, which then you have a task at those home-based. There's a reason for it. It's not just like, you need to go to the home-based, you have something that's going on that
Yep.
you want the advisory, the Cav block teacher or person, whoever's running it, to go over with the students,
To
right?
serve as,
Right,
yeah,
okay.
source of information, or
Right.
we're all doing the same thing that day.
It's-
We would pull a.
And I would call that like a relatively new thing, right? I mean, we haven't been doing that for a while. I don't know, I'm just going based, this is a parent talking, like, we haven't, the home-based Cav block is this year or last year, or
Yeah, so I don't know if they did it last year.
it's new this year?
We've done it a few times this year.
Yeah, I don't believe it was happening last year. It
So
might
what
have been.
happens is the entire school, it's not a subset.
Right, it's the whole school,
Correct.
right, yeah.
The students on the committee have been very clear and vocal that they do not want to lose Cav block as it currently exists. They rely on it very heavily. So I just don't want you to have the impression that we are changing Cav block in the subcommittee.
Yeah, I mean,
At least not yet.
Not yet, like, you're still discussing, and it's still, but this response to NEASC is more about, like, this is how we've used Cav block to kind of at least have a moment or two this year of advisory with these kids.
Yep.
Not a moment or two, but more than that. But that was a figure of speech. Okay.
But the purpose of Cav block is very different than advisory. And I think we acknowledge the need for that Cav block. And it's mostly an academic need. It's supposed to be a response to intervention time. It's our, right? It's our teaching time. And if we take that from those kids, they lose that opportunity to have instruction, additional instruction from their teachers. So I guess I would think this sort of change needs, before we put it in front of NEASC, would need some sort of board discussion, approval, and I'm not sure that it would get my,
Well, let's find out. Has this already gone out?
Yeah.
So but I also think that even from its inception, it was always going to be a time where you would have guidance counselors come in and do presentations. It was always going to be times when the kids wouldn't just have the freedom to choose. I mean,
At its
I was
inception,
there
for
when it
adaptive
was,
scheduler,
right.
Students reported to a home-based Cav
right,
block.
we've always had that as part
What
of
was
it.
The challenge with that is that it became, you would lose the time that Liz is describing.
Right.
Signing passes, waiting, students didn't have permission just to report to a teacher, they had to report to the home-based Cav block. Because of the academic focus of Cav block, adaptive scheduler was implemented to save that time. Now,
which I think I think most
its
of us
benefit.
believe that's a positive
and it-
change.
and it
Right.
has been. And I think Tom's point that students and staff don't want to lose that time. The times where we've pulled home-based Cav block this year has been I'm blanking on an example right now, but so today we had the juniors reported to the auditorium for college presentation.
Right, college presentations about scheduling,
Yes.
things about that.
But I
Yeah.
also think you added with a crisis.
So we did not.
You didn't?
We did not.
Oh.
With the crisis, right. So, but it has been used at times, and it's always been, I mean, my understanding is, I don't think this is a change, it's just we've always used it as a place to get large-scale messages out to the community of students.
So I think what we're scratching on is some of the stuff that's come up in our advisory subcommittee where we don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul. Everyone values the CAV block as an academic intervention essential component of our operations, but we're also recognizing the needs that students have for both a connection to an adult in the building and also at times to address certain issues that come up.
My point wasn't to point out, to correct the report, so much as just to make this group aware that the activity going on within the subcommittee is not doing that
It's not,
trade-off.
CAV block's gonna become advisory. That's
Right,
not the work.
exactly.
Correct.
It's not, CAV block's gonna become advisory, that we treasure and respect what CAV block is.
Yep. But within our current schedule, we don't have a vehicle.
Yeah, we have limited options,
Yeah.
and that's one of the struggles that
Right.
we're addressing.
So the report to NASC is that we've used CAV block somewhat for home-based things, but
And
that
also
in general,
in
we're
the
working
same
on it.
fashion, we've made progress on other fronts like Top 10. We've implemented an instructional practices subcommittee to develop or potentially implement an advisory.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And how's it, and other than that, how's it going? Is it a committee of?
It's
is
great.
it-
I mean, to be honest, it's great work. I think, I know I enjoy it. It's a fairly diverse group of staff, students, community members, board members, and I think, our next mission is to get some professional development, both for our committee and maybe expand it a little bit, inviting other staff, other students to visit and/or conference call with schools, panels of staff, panels of students from other schools who have it. And we have a whole list of different components that would be incorporated into developing not just at a school, but at a school that's been in place without it for some time. So implementing it to a school that's already highly successful is kind of one of the challenges that we're experiencing. That a lot of what you see is the blueprint for a brand new school without
Existing traditions and existing
yeah.
expectations.
Right. So that's something that we're exploring as one of the challenges that we'll have, and that we already have a long history of operations that we've
Right.
got to adjust.
I gotcha.
But
And-
it's good, healthy conversation.
I like that. It's so much better than talking about isolation days. Is there any other questions for Tim on the NASC report?
Do we expect them to respond?
Yep, so they should respond. The exact quote was a few weeks after their March commission's report. So whenever they meet in March, and they didn't give me a date, they just said the month of March, and they said a few weeks after that. So
Okay.
So April.
optimistic April, sometime in April.
April showers.
Yep.
Brings
Bring
great
the
reports
down.
from NASC. Are there any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. I like when we talk about kids and school. Great. So at this point, we're going to move to the discussion of the annual meeting. I don't think I see a need for the principals to stay. Does anyone else? I mean, these policies, Tim and Patrick, are you okay with not being here for these policy discussions? Do you feel like any of them are things that you've worked on? In the meantime, while you guys figure that out, I'm going to move on to our discussion of the annual meeting presentation, which I think Tom wanted us to put on his agenda. So I think what this is to discuss who's going to do what. Is that basically it? Unfortunately, I don't have the warrant in front of me, so did you pull it up by any chance? Okay, so warrant Article 1 is the bond. The lease, excuse me, the lease. So we're going to need somebody to present on that. Is that what we're doing here, is just deciding? Should we have
I
the
didn't know
superintendent?
if it had
We should
already
ask.
been resolved, what's going
No,
on, but I think.
no,
this is
actually, I
good.
think this is
sort
a
of our last
really,
chance.
I think this is a really good thing, because what will happen is if we don't discuss this now, and this is the work of the board, we'll end up doing this on our own on other times. So it would be great. I don't know if we'll have the answers for all this, but I can take notes and find out, if there's other people, if we want to fight it out, like
Well, here's
maybe
the que-
everybody wants to present on the municipal lease.
What
Maybe.
I was, I noted that at the deliberative session in Brookline, Andy did a lot of presenting. A lot of the presentation was from administration as opposed to the board. I didn't know whether there was an expectation that the administration was going to take the lead on any of these items, because if they are, we should probably check those off first, and then we play with what's left over. Do you know if Andy wants to do the lease?
I don't think he has a preference. He's certainly happy to do whatever it is, but there's.
Is there anyone who feels sufficiently familiar with an understanding of it and an advocate of it that they want to take that on?
It wasn't a board committee, facility committee work. It was really a request from the SAU office and the facilities director. So
is it
normally,
okay for
I
us
think.
to ask Andy to
yeah.
do it? Andy to either do it or
Right.
designate someone to do it?
Yes.
So, I would like Andy to do that.
So that's, what
I
article
don't
number is
really,
that?
Oh, that's Article one.
number one. I generally would prefer us to do as much as possible because it is our warrant, but, so Article 2 is the HESA contract. Krista, you've been doing that, but I don't want to stick you with it. Well,
It's up to you. If someone else wants to do it, you're more than welcome to. Kate?
You do such a great job.
I agree.
Krista, she's like,
How do you organize your agenda? So, how about I volley that one right back?
let's hope that you're there as an elected.
3 is the budget.
3 is the budget. Normally,
Darlene?
Darlene presents the budget.
Yep.
So I will ask her,
It's
because I don't
not our
want to.
budget.
It's not our budget.
Okay, so Darlene is presenting the budget.
Well, the budget committee is presenting the
I
budget.
I will, out of respect for Darlene, at least shoot her a text and make sure she doesn't need anything from us on that. And how does that sound?
That's fine, but just,
It's
she's
the
a-
bud- it's the
No,
bud
in the
com.
past, she has owned it and
I know,
proactively
I
asked
know,
if she
I
wants
know, but
anything.
I don't like to
Okay.
just assume, like, we should at least ask the question if she needs anything from us.
And you the SAU?
Number 4 is the SAU budget.
Who was on the subcommittee?
So Krista was on the subcommittee. So Krista, do you want to do that one too? Or
Sure.
do you want someone else to do that?
I can do that.
I think the biggest thing there, and this is one that is probably going to require the most thought and wordsmithing, is the information around the new compliance communications person. And I'm certainly supportive of Krista doing it. I would suggest she talk with Andy and they collaborate in case you want him or someone to run wing for you on that, because there's probably going to be a lot of questions about why is it needed, why do we need a PR person?
It's not a PR person. Don't
No,
even say
but
that.
that's good, that's gonna be the question. Why do we need a PR person? Because I'm even the people who supported it in Brookline still asked questions about it, because there's really not a lot of understanding, number one, about what they will do, and the understanding of how much is currently demanded of existing staff to do these things. So, I guess,
I think we did have it in the public hearing. There was some language about the compliance position, but we'll probably get some more questions, so.
there's one slide from
Right,
the hearing about it,
right.
but I don't think that was enough. It wasn't enough in Brookline, let me put it that way, and there were only 20 people.
Okay, so then Article 5 is the maintenance fund. I think I generally will do the funds, and I'll do Article 5 and Article 6, because,
So Article 5 is maintenance, and that's.
and I'll talk to
budget.
Darlene and have her, like,
What's
prime me
Article
on-
6, which?
It's the
Special ed trust.
special ed trust fund, so I'll do those two. And I'll do like a welcome as well. As current board chair, I'll do a welcome to the whole thing. like I did last year. And then the petition warrant articles, we don't present.
Correct.
And it's up to the moderator to deal with that, so.
That's the last one?
And yeah, and it starts at 6:30, correct? And we're
I
gonna
think the-
follow the,
I think the meeting starts at
6:30.
and the actual
And the
first
voting-
article he wants by 7.
7, right. And we will work with Drew as well to make sure that we're, all on the same page and got, the PowerPoint set up and all of that. He usually requests a meeting with the BudCom chair and the board chair, and we work together to make sure that everything runs smoothly. Are there any questions or comments on that?
Well, the one thing I'm curious about is people are saying that they're expecting it to be a 2-day meeting, and based on the size of this, I'm not sure why they're expecting that. Is it?
Well, they could be expecting it because it's on the calendar. And historically, things
I'm just wondering,
take longer, but I don't think it would.
which of these items are normally secret ballots by requirement?
SB2 requires the secret ballot.
But that's not on that's not on there. Oh,
It
yes,
will
it is.
be.
Oh, it is, sorry.
SB2 does, and the
thought it
SAU
was on the
budget
ballot.
requires a
Yeah.
ballot because they have to do it.
Okay.
So,
It's okay, there'll be one for everything.
Yeah.
it only takes 20, how many 5 people
But
to
you can
request
start.
it?
Yeah, and you can start the next one.
Yeah,
while
as
you're
long as you
involved.
get them out, it's just the process
So-
of, and the nice part was last year, because of COVID, and I think it's a really good lesson, is they handed out they handed out a lot more different colored ballots when you went up, and so they basically assumed that there was going to be a number of secret ballots, and then we already had them, which saves going back to.
So I'll
that was a-
check with Drew to make sure that happens.
Yeah, it was a
again.
wonderful thing. I mean, and it's paper, so if it goes in the trash can, it goes in the trash
So
can.
check with Drew,
He had,
enough.
they had different colored
Enough
ballots,
ballots
so we were able to run
for
red,
all.
yellow, green, blue, whatever.
Lots of colors.
Lots and lots of colors, and that worked out really.
Yeah, the only disadvantage of that is that if someone wants to leave, they can leave their ballots with somebody else, and you never know how many ballots people are putting in.
That's gonna happen, regardless.
I mean,
I don't know.
No, it doesn't if you have to.
And not as much, but it's still, potential.
It is what it is. I mean, I guess if you're gonna show up and, if a spouse is gonna show up and they're gonna hand off their entire set of ballots to their spouse and walk out the door, and I don't think we can stop that. I mean, obviously, I think if the moderator whoever's monitoring the box saw them put 2 ballots in, they probably should say something.
They
but
would say something, yeah.
But we would expect them to say
Right.
something, but I don't think we can police that.
Yeah, but even if they say something, they can't do anything about it, because they're already in the. No, I'm not, I'm
Right,
just
and the
saying,
system is a
people
paper ballot
recognize that
system.
that's the downside of it.
Thanks
they're-
for pointing out to everyone how they can run this, they can work
Game
the
the system.
system, they can
Work
game
around
the
the-
system now.
Yep.
But, at least the good guys and the bad guys have now just heard how to game the system, so everybody's welcome.
Okay, so, that being said, we do feel very comfortable with the results of our votes, and we feel like, in the past, things have gone very cleanly and legally. So, that being said,
Before we move on to deliberations, can we dismiss Linda?
oh, yes, I'm so sorry, Linda. I actually, oh, you were just here in case we had questions? I was gonna say, there's no revenue or expense report. Okay. Yes, Linda, please go. I'm sorry. I mean, no, Linda, stay if you'd like, but you don't have to stay if you don't want to.
Please feel free to move about the country.
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Can I
for
go
that.
too?
Yes.
No.
We still have a quorum. Can I also go?
No one's
1,
leaving.
2, we're
Board
fine.
members stay, and I need to hold on.
I thought you wanted to get through this quickly.
I do. Oh, actually, Tom, you can go. No, I'm kidding. Take Tom Solon with you. Just teasing.
No,
Holly, while you're
she
getting your
just
spot.
extended the meeting by half an hour.
Yeah, I know.
No,
Please don't do that.
Guys,
Okay.
come on, we were here till
So
10
at this
last night.
point, I am moving on to deliberations. If there's no other comments on the presentation for the annual meeting.
I was just gonna tell one really quick thing. I know Krista's gonna cover that SAU budget, but specifically to the communication specialist type role. If you want help brainstorming that, my children have not attended a district that doesn't have one, and we've seen, the impacts of
Okay,
that. So I
great.
would be happy to brainstorm with you to kind of how to communicate that best, like what I've seen in other districts.
Okay, great, thank you.
No
I
problem.
appreciate it.
And now, deliberations. We have the first deliberative item. I think we have a motion already put together for that. Beth, do you have it?
I do. If you give me just one quick second.
That's BHC?
No.
Yeah.
It's the first deliberative item that comes out of non-public.
It's a motion about the
yeah, you're right.
application.
The
is
motion
what you're
about the
looking for?
application.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve the application of all 3 students to complete the 2021-2022 school year at Hollis Brookline High School and Hollis Brookline Middle School, and that the tuition be waived for the senior student.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Okay.
Just for clarification, there was a request made by a family to have 3 students continue.
Right. They've moved out of town, but they'd like to
Will
finish.
be.
Okay, so is there any other comments?
They haven't currently moved out.
No, they will
They
be
will
in the
be
future.
moving out of town, thank
Before the
you.
end of the school year.
Right. All those in favor? Opposed? 6-0. Motion passes 6-0, holy mackerel. Okay,
Thank you.
Of course.
all right, and now we have deliberations on the policy. So many policies.
Thanks, Lynette.
So I need a motion to accept second reading of policy BHC, Board Communications with Staff.
So moved.
Moved by Beth, I need a second.
Second.
Second by Tom. Tom waved his hand. So this draft is in your packet. I believe it's exactly as it was, except I took out all the stuff and made the changes permanent. We did not receive, we didn't receive many comments, so we didn't make any changes in policy. We kept it as is because the minutes of last meeting reflected that people did not have any real comments on it. So at this point, we're at second read. If there's something that you want to catch, we'll just continue it. Anything?
Of course. I just wanted to point out that there was clarification given.
Oh, was there?
It-
I'm
as
sorry, I'm
as
trying to recall.
As was, it was in Don's outline, which helped remind me of it, that none of this restricts a board member from being asked to come to the school or something. That's not considered a visit. And it
Oh,
does, and it allows the superintendent to designate committee leaders and things from inviting people to the building to
Right.
participate. So my concern was, were we putting restrictions on it? I was given assurances that this does
Right.
not block normal
Right.
business.
So there were comments on it, but you didn't suggest any changes to the,
No,
more
no
than what we
changes,
changed,
there's
right? Okay.
clarification on what the meaning
Okay.
of this is.
We just basically cleaned it up so that it,
Yep.
took out what we had said we were crossing out. So are there any other comments on this?
My only other question is, do we want to amend the motion to be waive third?
We could.
I
Do
like
you-
that.
Do you want to,
I move to amend the motion to include, to waive third reading and approve.
okay?
Second.
Second by Beth. All those in favor of the amendment? 6-0. And at this point, can we vote on the now amended motion? Okay, so all in favor of the adopting this? Okay, we are at 6-0 on that one. Whew, we are flying through policy. Okay, now we have,
That's why I make a change to the law.
I'm happy, I'm super happy. You did a great job, Tom. Let's keep going. So now we need, this is a first read. No, that was a second reading. So this is also a second reading, and there's also no changes, but we're going to stick with the second reading. So I need a motion to accept the second reading of policy JCA, change of school assignment, best interests. Motion, please? Are you all
So
fighting
moved.
over it?
No,
Beth?
we were just, sorry.
Something.
Second,
Yeah,
Tom.
sorry.
Okay, so this one, again, I will look at the comments quickly. But there were questions about whether or not so this is basically the draft policy. Most of it came from NHSBA? It came from NHSBA, but we did have our director of student services, really take a look at this, and she made a slight change, and it was repeated through, to make sure that there was a reasonable, she wanted that word reasonable in there for people who had requested tuition to be sent out. And then there were some other clarifying questions about it, but there were no recommendations of change to the policy. So what you see in front of you, I believe, is exactly what we presented at the meeting last month. So this is a second read, the same exact policy. And it is a complicated policy and requires a lot of reading, so if we feel comfortable doing second and then having it come back, there is a lot of information in there. So maybe it would not be good to adopt it today, but I would like to ask Gina, would it be better if we adopted it today? Like, does it
Matter.
Or
Doesn't matter, okay.
The only question I have is, there was a question raised last month about whether there's that issue of if a student petitions to come in and the district says they want to send them and all that, and we say no, we believe we have the right to refuse that.
Correct.
Has that been confirmed?
So that is our council's interpretation of the law, but it has not been,
It's going to
Okay.
get confirmed someday by a
yes.
But
By a lawsuit.
but at least up to this point, we have had an opinion given to us from our, okay, that was my question.
Okay.
Just because it's long doesn't mean it
Oh,
can't be
no,
adopted.
we could do adopt a second. I just thought maybe it was a lot of information and, whatever. I'm good with whatever you want to do. If you want to amend it to adopt, I would vote for that.
I so amend.
So it sounds like you're amending to waive the third reading and adopt.
Yes.
I'll second
Okay,
that.
so Beth is seconding that. All those in favor of the amendment? 6-0. Okay, and so is there anything further to discuss on this?
Yes. It's a question. Can you remind me what prompted this?
It's
the law.
changing the law.
And what was, can you quickly say what the law, what law changed?
You want to speak? I mean, it basically opened this.
Giving parents and stuff the right,
Yes.
so this puts the boundaries and the framework around that activity?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so all in favor of third reading and adopt?
No, second reading and
Second wave.
adopt.
Second wave,
reading,
third,
waive
sorry,
third, and
second wave,
adopt.
third and adopt. Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? One of these days I'm just going to vote no, just for the heck of it. Okay, so that's 6-0.
You want to talk about it again?
No, thank you. Okay, so now we've got, I feel like this policy has been in front of us like every year. I have, again,
The law keeps changing.
well, we can always amend it. So I need a motion to accept the second reading of policy AC. It's non-discrimination, equal opportunity employment, and district anti-discrimination plan.
So moved.
Second reading, thank you.
Second.
Kate is making the motion, Beth is seconding. So I'm just looking at this. Last time, Gina noted that most of the proposed language comes from the sample policy. However, it's been amended and adjusted to better suit our structure. Is that right? Am I on the right one? Yes. We have another appendix that relates to this, but that appendix basically lists, you're supposed to list who is your Title IX, who is your this, who is your human resources, like all these different positions, right? We have that ready to go to the website.
It's included in the packet.
It's included in the, it is?
Yep, it's
It
immediately
is.
after AC.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have to vote on the appendix?
No,
No.
because that could change tomorrow, like if one of those people quits their job or
Right.
whatever. So,
And it's
so
also
that will just go
inclusive
right
for,
on,
like,
up
the
onto the
whole-
website so people can access it. So, you asked for clarification on this, Tom, as applies to employees and students, and was told that is the case. And you requested the order be reviewed, having equal opportunity of employment is somewhat a subset of majority policy. We looked at it again, and we, as a policy committee, decided not to move anything around. So that is really where we are. So that's where we are on this. Are there any comments or questions or frustration with the policy committee that you want to express? Because you can. It's okay. We're here. You can take it on the chin. We're used to it. Okay. Do we want to just go with second read on this one?
I'm fine with that.
Anyone? Okay. I'm going to call the vote unless someone has something to say. All those in favor for second read? Okay, great. That one's 6-0-0. Now we have policy JEC.
To be rescinded, we did approve JCA.
So, right, okay. So since we approved JCA, we need to rescind policy JEC, manifest educational hardship. So I need a motion to rescind.
So moved.
By Beth, second by Liz. Do you want to explain that? Just that this is part of the manifest hardship got rolled into JAC, right?
Into JCA.
JCA, sorry.
Change of
Thank
school
you.
assignment.
Thank you.
Yep, so this is,
To rescind that. So all those in favor of rescinding policy JEC? Okay, 6-0. All right, and now, a new policy.
Wait, before
Sorry.
you run it, if that's the case, then do we have to amend JCA, which currently refers to JEC, as we just approved it?
We just approved it and approved it.
And it says, and it refers to JEC.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
we can approve it with the understanding that that's being deleted.
Now that it's rescinded, it can be deleted.
Do we have
Because
to
it's
make
not
a motion
applicable.
to do that?
I don't think so because it's not applicable. The JEC is just not applicable.
It's also not really part of the policy.
Okay,
It's
I
just
just
a
wanted to.
reference, like the C also.
It's a reference.
It's a C also, so it's not really on the policy. It's a reference for
Okay,
convenience.
So then just remove that.
Will do.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
it's, exactly.
Okay.
It's an administrative convenience. It's not part of the policy itself.
Okay, so now we are at
ACE.
ACA. Okay, and this is, did I do this one?
I did it.
Okay, thank you. Because I was like, I don't remember this. Okay, so I need a motion to accept first reading of policy ACE, procedural safeguards, non-discrimination on the basis of handicap disability as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
So it's a lot easier.
Well-
second by Liz. No?
Did you
No,
say
I'm
first
just
second?
trying,
Okay.
what was AC? We've got,
It's ACE.
I
It's
know, but,
And then there's AC-E.
so the other one was AC.
AC-E. This is the last one in
Got it.
the last
Yeah.
two pages, and it's
I was-
ACE.
I saw them both
We like to
there, I wasn't
complicate
sure.
things, you know.
And
Dashes
it
and
looks like
dashes.
there's a lot of language. Go ahead, you talk to them.
So essentially, we are required to follow the law, and the law changes. And at every IEP team meeting, families are offered and provided the procedural safeguard handbook, which outlines all of their rights as a parent, as part of the team. So rather than having outdated policy, for one of the first times, I've seen that the recommendation is just simply to get rid of the language from policy because that requires changing through committee and multiple board meetings to just reference the fact that we are assuring that all students are provided the procedural safeguards. And so it's really just saying all of that is identified in the document that's handed out at all meetings. And that is our practice. It has been our practice for as long as I can remember. It's just kind of formalizing it in policy.
Are there
Do-
any questions on that?
Do you want a motion first?
I think we did the motion.
Yeah.
Did?
Betty
Okay.
and Liz.
Yeah, I think the motion is,
Okay, so the questions I have are, this information you're deleting includes the identification of the Director of Special Education as sort of the point person for it. I think it's worthwhile keeping a responsible individual identified so that someone reading the policy would know where to start if they need help?
Doesn't the procedural safeguard handbook include that information?
Yes, it also is included in what we just, the AC-E, the Notice of Contact Information for Human Rights Officer, Title IX Coordinator, 504 Coordinator, and Civil Rights Agencies. So this is this will be posted on the website, identifying who to go to for grievance procedures. And then the document, the procedural safeguard, also references who to speak to.
The way that this is currently being proposed, to a large extent, it's not useful, because there's not enough information in here to let people know, what do I do next? It's so generic. I would like it to at least, if we're either, is this one required by law?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, then I would like it to, at a minimum, point to the policy that we do have that's going to have some useful information, or at least reference it.
So the idea is that it's not in policy because we have to immediately implement the law when the law changes. However, we can certainly talk about providing additional information as to where to look, where to find the procedural safeguards.
That's what I mean.
Could
Yeah.
we not
So
just
for
like?
instance, if the new, what's the new policy that has all that information?
It's not a policy, it's the appendix, the
AC-E.
But that's related to policy AC, right?
AC.
All of them, yeah.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering if it's that, or if there's
Maybe put the
either
ACE
a
reference
website or
-E in
something to
Yep.
say, just something so that it's not a dead end.
Well, we
That's
could
a
just
good idea.
refer them to the DOE website, I mean, because it's the New Hampshire Procedural Safeguards Handbook,
Is that
Is-
on their website?
yeah,
Then,
very simply defined.
then
I mean, you could just literally list the DOE website, education,
Right, so
it
add
can
that
be
to the
found
policy.
at education.nh.gov. I would probably have a different change, because I would soften, and now I've lost my language. I would probably get rid of the word ensure, and I would basically just write that we're gonna comply with the, why did this just disappear?
She has it right in front of her.
Thank you. I think I would just sort of say the school district shall comply
Gonna go home and eat dinner.
with all procedural safeguards for handicapped and disabled students as are required by law. Just get rid of that
Right.
ensure compliance, because that sounds like something slightly more than comply.
Okay. So it looks like we can talk about this more in policy,
Yeah,
make sure it's
yeah.
all cleaned up. Okay.
Yeah.
So, great.
She'll fix
So it's
whatever I
just
just
first
said.
read, so we'll
But you
take
got
this
the
back to
idea.
policy. We have some comments, and we'll put this on the policy committee agenda with those comments, which is ACE. Okay. All those in favor of first read? 600. I believe that leaves us with, if I am not mistaken, a report out by the process observer at 8:18
You
PM.
didn't appoint one.
I did.
Yeah, before you came in.
Well, I didn't, yeah. Regular meeting, non-public meeting, non-meeting, and public hearing, all of the things. But we did really well. We took a little more time in our non-public but caught up really quickly. Everything actually stayed really on task, a little extra time when we asked, but all good comments and in lightning speed flew through a lot of policies. We don't normally get that fast through stuff. We are good.
Yes, and it was great to hear so many positive things are happening at the high school and middle school from our principals, so. Okay, at this point, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So much.
Second.
Okay, wait, moved by Beth, seconded by Liz. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We are adjourned at 8:19 PM. And please tell